So, hi everyone. I assume that everyone here has written or is writing a book, is that right? Mm-hmm. How many of you have finished a book? Huge, huge congratulations. That's one of the biggest steps ever. And my first book's under a bed somewhere. It was truly horrific. I've been going on this binge of Californication lately, and there's an episode of it, and talk about a show with a lot of sexuality, where, he's a writer, his daughter starts to write, and last night we watched an episode where the daughter gave him the book, and he pretty much said, now you put it in the drawer, and you start a new one, and it was a crisis for her. But when I look back at my work, from even published work from years ago, like now, because I've become more successful, I have publishers that are actually reissuing some of my work, and there's some of it that I go, no, not that one, not that one. And they'll say, oh, but it's good, Lisa. No, not to me. Because I think, part of growing is you do feel that you're getting better and better. You should. And I can tell you that when I first started writing, I would not have been able to write the series that's the one that's becoming the TV show. I was not that kind of writer. I was not where I needed to be. There's so many things that I learned, and a big part of that was character development. And a lot of people don't understand how important sex is to character development. But sex is, as we said starting this, not a four-letter word. And that's because it really is true. And I'm not going to read along. You all have handouts? Because I usually stumble over everything I'm trying to read. Do you have handouts? No. Well, I have handouts. So let me get my husband up here. I have only been able to say that at, so limited time because we got married in November. It feels kind of good. Congratulations. Thank you. And because I'm always at home, I don't get to say it to anyone because I'm always writing. Anyway, so he's going to hand this out because we're going to do some things like, first I'm going to really talk about developing your character and how your characters and how sexuality plays into that. But I'm actually going to read one of the sexiest scenes I've ever written because we're going to stop at different places and I'm going to show you why it's not just a sex scene. Okay. Anyway, the thing I want to talk about sex is, to start out, is that sex is not a sin. Murder is, stealing is, cheating is. How you use sexuality in your stories can be used in all those ways too. But the bottom line is that sex is not a sin. And when I first started writing, I owned a staffing agency for 11 years, and I had a stockholder who, one of the things he said to me when he found out what I was writing was, you should be writing more of those murder mysteries and stuff like that. I'm like, right, because slashing someone's throat is so much more godly than having sex. And I have to tell you, he had actually made a comment to me about how that might make me be able to get my book sold to movies or TV. I had a little bit of joy in my heart when I told him it was being made into a TV show. I can't help it. I'm human. Because sex is how we all got here. Even if you were artificially inseminated, somebody had sex to somehow get you here. It is normal. It is human. It is a part of how we interact as people. It is how we dress. It is how we are awkward with people, how we are not awkward with people. When we don't think it's about sex, we are sexual creatures. Things that happen in our life affect that sexuality. So anyway, you all have, everyone has a handout? Right, okay. So sex in a book is not like writing porn. Sex is in many books that you don't even classify as romance. Romance is the one that tends to get the, oh, this is porn. And thanks to 50 Shades, at least, it's not so forbidden as it used to be. But sex is a part of every book. You don't even sometimes realize it, but in some way, shape, or form, sexuality is a part of every story, every movie, everything you do in life. So what are some of the ways that your characters might relate to sex? They despise sex. Come on, we all know some people like that. I mean, they do. My mother. She actually made a joke to me once. No, this is true. I mean, these are things that you can delve into their character. When somebody said Chippendales, and she made it, what's Chippendales? I'm like, oh, come on, mother. What woman on the planet doesn't know what the Chippendale dancers are, But that's how removed from sexuality and how much she even wants the world to feel that that's the case. So, when you're talking about a person, how do they relate to every little thing about sex? So they despise sex. What happened in their life to make them despise sex? Were they abused as a child? What happened? Something. The way they saw their parents interact sexually. Something happened. And that affects every single thing that they do in their life. And if you're a bad guy, you can use that man to create a vicious villain. Sexuality is a tool. I have used it many times. I can't stress enough that when you're writing completely outside of romance, and I don't know if any of you have read the Inside Out series, but yes, there's a romance there, but it is a mystery, and there are a lot of people that have damaged characters. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most about writing it is a lot of the elements that are far from romance. It's delving into those characters and the psyche of them and what makes them dark and damaged, and we all are. On Facebook you see a lot of my families, they all think our family's normal until, or they think we're normal. Yeah, nobody's normal. What is normal, really? I don't know. Abnormal is normal. If you have a character that is perfect, I would say to you, you've got a problem. Okay, one of the first things an editor ever said to me was, we want flawed characters that people relate to. Who relates to someone perfect? Now, it's a gift to take somebody who is not perfect and make you like them, and Nurse Jackie is such a good example of that. Has anybody watched Nurse Jackie? If you have not, I highly, from a writer's standpoint, recommend watch the first few seasons of that show. She is so damaged, and the writing is so brilliant. She is a drug addict who cheats on her husband, who is really kind of a crummy mom, and you are going, yeah, go, Nurse Jackie. When she got sober later, it got kind of boring. I have sat there so many times and just from a writer's perspective said that it's pure brilliance that she's that damaged. But again, her sexuality is part of that, the cheating, all of those things. This is part of what makes her character. They're overly sexual, how they dress, how they act. Like Christina Aguilera, how she always, when she was heavy, had her breast hanging out, overcompensating for insecurity. What are those things that you're talking about your characters? How are you showing those subtle ways that they are who they are? They're timid, they're awkward. Your sexuality can be affected by things like when you were growing up just being told you were stupid a lot. I was around a family where I was appalled that the kids were pretty much told you're too dumb to go to college, you're too dumb for this, you're too dumb for that. Or I had an employee who, when I was in my staffing business, whose husband told her she was fat and ugly all the time, and she was actually quite gorgeous. But she believed him. So how the different people in your life have interacted with you, it starts forming at a young age, but it can be, an experience that happens as a teenager. It can be an experience that happens even as an adult in your married life, how your spouse treats you. I know that I am not the same person that I was in my 20s or my 30s. Life experiences and the different people who come into your life and help heal you manage that. You need to know those things about your characters and not just your primary characters. You need to know this about all of your characters in your story. Think about it. How many stories are there about some shipwrecked person or some person who got murdered who's now he wants to find the killer to make, who hurt his wife? How many of those stories are there? But what do you remember about the stories? The characters. The characters that you attach to, the storyline has to be there. You cannot go in and expect to give us the storyline with all these holes and say, because I said so, it's okay. No. But even if you do all of that right, if you do not make me connect to your characters, I do not keep watching. We keep watching Nurse Jackie because it's Nurse Jackie. That's the point. You've got to connect to those characters. Sexuality is such an important part of that. Don't forget that. And that does not mean they have to have sex, even. So if you don't want to write sex, I'm not telling you that you have to write sex in your stories. I'm telling you that sexuality is a part of being a human being, and that you absolutely can't forget. Insecurities, tugging their shirt down a lot because they feel a little heavy. How they hold their hands. I knew somebody who always held their hands like this because they had some issues. What would somebody who has some issues do? You know, you have to relay that. It's not in they said, it's what they do that you show us. Show, not tell. And God, as a new writer, I got so tired of hearing that. What do you mean show, not tell? But don't overwrite it. Don't ramble on. Yeah, that's right. And I will tell you that I overwrite and ramble every book, and I just went through and chopped pages and pages and pages of my last book that I finally turned in yesterday, because I can go back and I can see it in myself after all the books I've written. So, and it does get easier, and you get where you can see it yourself instead of somebody else seeing it. But there's ways to show it, and it needs to be in the different things your characters do, not in rambling narrative. Okay. My very first agent, one of the things she taught me, and who I will forever be appreciative for, because it was one of the strongest things that I ever learned in my career, was what is a character arc? Has anybody ever worked with character arcs? I cannot stress the value of a character arc enough, and how they change and grow for me as I do, as I write. You not only need to know their name, their date of birth, that kind of thing, but who are their siblings? Who are their best friends in school? What happened? What are those incidents that happened in their life? It could be a movie night in their high school years where something crazy happened that affected them. I mean, what are the things that truly, truly make up this character and, create who they are? So I'm so glad to hear that you guys are doing the character arcs, because I got all the way to an agent and didn't even know what a character arc was. I'm like, what's that? So such an important thing. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So the reasons that I would include a sex scene. There's so many reasons that I might include a sex scene, but here's what I'll say, is none of them are for them to have sex. If you are writing a sex scene to put a sex scene in a book, please leave it out, because it's the wrong reason. And if I were you, I've actually had people go, but there's not that much sex in it. There's a couple really hot scenes, but there's not that much sex. And it certainly, the series has a BDSM element to it. There's definitely none of that. No, you know why? My characters were not ready, and I would not do it until they were ready. I would not do it just because that was something that somebody thought I needed to put in a book, because that's not why I wrote the book. So it's about, when are your characters ready? How have they developed? Does the sex scene serve a purpose? Again, if not, it shouldn't be there. I cannot write a sex scene out of order. If you can write a sex scene out of order, you have a problem. I'll hear people go, oh, I hate writing them, I'm going to skip it and come back. How can you do that? Because there should be something very important that happens within the context of that sex scene. There should be an emotional development. There should be discoveries made about that character. I learn something about my characters with every sex scene I write, and I am emotionally just worn out when I finish a sex scene. There's a spanking scene in Being Me. I had never written a spanking scene. It was very uncomfortable for me. Very uncomfortable. But the thing about the series is that the heroine herself is a school teacher who has never delved into this world, nor had I. And so whenever she finds this journal and she gets pulled into this world and gets involved with these people, she's doing uncomfortable, awkward things. I had to be willing to go to uncomfortable, awkward places to truly bring that to life. It took me like 5 or 6 days to write that scene, and I cannot tell you how many times I rewrote it, and it was not about the spanking, though I wanted to get that perfect because the BDSM SM world deserved to have me do it the right way, not paint it like whatever I decided it would be. But I also, there was an emotional reason. Why would somebody who'd never been down that path decide to go down that path? And did she feel guilty about it and uncomfortable? And how did she dare trust this person? There's these emotions that had to be there. It could not be, I'm going to write a spanking scene. This is going to be kinky and fun. No, so there's nothing fun about it. And it was about the emotional change that she was going through and what she was discovering about herself and him. So yeah, again, I'm talking about really writing about sexy stuff here, but I have plenty of times that I'm writing with a sexual undertone that doesn't have any sex to it at all. It's just a part of who somebody is as a human being. So when you're writing a sex scene, what are some of the reasons? To show how evil someone is. I have one particular series that I wrote. I showed, it was actually a Harlequin series, and it was actually a paranormal series called The Knights of White, and it was very much about they were, angels helping to, fight demons. But the bad guys, when they had sex, it was all about using people and damaging them and showing just how brutal and violent they were. And I showed some of that sex, and shockingly, because Harlequin's more conservative, they let me do that. So it's to show how evil someone is. Say you're writing a serial killer. I mean, how would a serial killer, relate to that? They're going into a topless bar, they're going through women, you're going to show that, maybe you don't even show the sex, but you show that they go in and they have, they're looking at topless dancers and the things that you might see, that serial killer do because they're not right. Not that anybody who goes into a topless bar isn't right. I don't mean it like that. I just mean you would show it in that way with them. Use that as an element to show it. Because I'd probably just offended 90% of the men on the planet. And some women. Anyway, you're overcoming an emotional wall with the character. If you're going to have sex, you're going to make the decision to have sex with this person. So you're overcoming an emotional wall in the relationship. It breaks down an inhibition for the person, or it brings some revelation for them. They're acting out some sort of damage that they have. They want to have sex with lots and lots of people because there's something going on inside them, and that's how they're bringing it out. It's like any kind of addiction. It can be like that. It can jar the person into some sort of revelation. The sexual event can. So that's another reason why you might write a sex scene. But I can't stress enough, too, like in the Inside Out series, Mark Compton, he uses sex as a weapon in everything he does. He is sex walking, power walking, whether he's with a man or whether he's with a woman. Everything about him is a sexual expression. And even when it's not, when you think it's not, it is. It's power, it's control. When he's dealing with the main heroine, it's like he intimidates her into drinking her cold coffee. There's a sexual undertone to it all, a commanding presence to it all. He is sex. Now, the men who read it don't necessarily see it that way. The women who read it do. But it is. It's all about sex and power. So, questions? No. Okay. I'm going very fast. Oops. So I guess that means I get to read a sex scene. It's so funny when you read your own work, you look and go, oh, I wouldn't have done that. The first 2 lines of this scene I'm going to read you start with the same word, my, which, by the way, is not a good habit. Don't start your paragraphs with the same word. However, it seemed to work, and my editor didn't seem to think it was a problem either. But I think in the context it was. But anyway, so I'm going to read just a little bit, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to show you what I told you about this character when I was doing this scene. Why is this so important? The scene is not about sex to me at all, even though it's probably one of the sexier scenes I've ever written. So, just warning. Okay. My chin lifts and I cut my gaze from Chris's and exit the elevator. My heels touch the pale perfection of glossy hardwood floors, and I stop and stare at the breathtaking sight before me. Beyond the expensive leather furniture adorning a sunken living room with a massive fireplace in the left corner is a spectacular sight. There is a ceiling-to-floor window, a live pictorial of the city spanning the entire length of the room. Spellbound, I walk forward, enchanted by the twinkling night lights and the haze surrounding the distant Golden Gate Bridge. One, you know the location. I barely remember going down the few steps to the living area or what the furniture I passed looks like. I drop my purse on the coffee table and stop at the window, resting my hands on the cool surface. We are above the city, untouchable, and a palace in the sky. How amazing it must be to live here and wake up to this view every day. So again, he's very different from her. Do you see that? How I'm pointing out the differences between them, where she lives. You don't even have to have read the rest of the story. You know she doesn't live like this. We are above the city, untouchable, in a palace in the sky. How amazing it must be to live here and wake up to this view every day. Lights twinkling, almost as if they are talking to each other, laughing at me as they creep open a door to the hollow place inside me I've rejected only moments before in the elevator. Okay, so you know she's damaged, she's fighting something, and being in this place has done something. The difference between him and her is what you should get out of the scene, part of that. I swallow hard as the song broken from the band Lifehouse fills the room, because Chris doesn't know how personal it is to me. I'm falling apart. I'm falling to pieces, barely hanging on. So what do you know about her? She's damaged. She's got some sort of pain being with this man she's about to have sex with, has awakened in her. And maybe the song is a little connection there. Does he have that, or is it coincidence? We don't know yet. The song, this place with the words, and I am raw and exposed as if cut and bleeding. Who was I kidding with the refusal to hide anymore? This is why I've hidden. The past begins to pulse to life within me, and I am seconds from remembering why I feel this way. I refuse to process the lyrics and shove them aside. I don't want to remember. I can't go there. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to seal those old wounds, desperate to feel anything but their presence. So, does it feel like sex so far to you? No. Suddenly, Chris is behind me, caressing my jacket from my shoulders. His touch is a welcome sensation, and when his arms slide around me, his body framing mine from behind, I am desperate to feel anything but what this song, no doubt aided by wine, stirs inside me. I lean into him, and hard muscle absorbs me. There is a strength to Chris, a silent confidence I envy, and it calls to the woman in me. So we know why she's attracted to this man. He's powerful, he's strong, he's got something that she's not feeling herself. And isn't that what we usually are drawn to? Somebody that helps us feel something that we need to feel. So it's not just this, oh, he's good looking, he's so hot, which he is, but that helps from a total, whether male or female. His fingers, those talented, famous fingers, he's a famous artist, brush my hair away from my nape, and his lips press to the delicate area beneath, creating goosebumps on my skin. And still, I barely block out the song and the words to the song and their meaning to me. As if he senses my need for more something, anything, just more. He turns me around to face him, and his fingers tangle roughly in my hair. The tight pull is sweet, dragging me from other feelings, giving me a new focus. I am not the guy you take home to mom and dad, Sarah. His mouth next to mine, his clean mail scent all around me. You need to know that right now. You need to know that won't change. But the song does change, and this time to another track on what must be a Lifehouse CD. Nerve damage begins to play. I see through your clothes. Your nerve damage shows. Trying not to feel anything that's real, which is what she's trying to do with him. I laugh bitterly at the words, and Chris pulls back to steady me, and I'm not blind to what I see in the depth of his green eyes, what I've missed until now but sensed. He is as damaged as I am. We have too many of the wrong things in common to be more than sex, and the realization is freedom to me. I curve my fingers in the light stubble of his jaw, the rasp of skin welcome, and I have no idea why I admit what I have never said out loud. My mother is dead, and I hate my father, so don't worry. You're safe from family day, and so am I. All I want is here now in this piece of time. And please spare the pillow talk for someone who wants it, contrary to what you seem to think I'm a delicate rose. So, she blurts out something to him that she doesn't even talk about to herself. So do you see how the scene is developing her character, developing their relationship? Even why would she admit that to this man she doesn't even know? So that's what you're trying to get out of these scenes. If you're going to go there for a reason. We're not having sex. That is what porn is for. This is about telling a story of human growth and development and relationships. A stunned look flashes on his face for an instant before I press my lips to his. The answering moan I am rewarded with is white-hot fire in my blood that he answers with a deep sizzling stroke of his tongue. He slants his mouth over mine, deepening the connection, kissing me with a fierceness no man ever has, but then Chris is like no man I have ever met. So let's see. I kind of want to skip ahead because it's kind of... Actually, maybe I shouldn't.
As the people online go, no! You don't have the handout. They do have the handout. Oh, they do?
Are you guys prepared for it to get a little steamy? Okay, so we're going to go for it. What the heck? We have time. Okay, so we're going to start back with a stunned look flashes on his face an instant before I press my lips to his. The answering moan I am rewarded with is white-hot fire in my blood that he answers with a deep, sizzling stroke of his tongue. He slants his mouth over mine, deepening the connection, kissing me with a fierceness no other man ever has, but then Chris is like no man I ever known. His tongue plays wickedly with mine, and I meet him stroke for stroke, arching into him, telling him that I am here and present, and I am going nowhere. In reply to my silent declaration, his hand cups my ass and pulls me solidly against his erection. Arching into him, I welcome the intimate connection, burn for the moment he will be inside me. My hand presses between us, and I stroke the hard line of his shaft. Chris tears his mouth from mine, pressing me hard against the window. And I know I've threatened his control. Me, little schoolgirl Sarah McMillan. Our eyes lock, hot flames dancing between us, and some unidentifiable challenge. So she's a school teacher. And she's kind of getting this thrill of, she's challenging him, but this is so out of the realm of she's a good girl. She doesn't do these one-night stands, and she's met him before, but still she thinks he's this very rich, experienced guy who's going to be gone tomorrow. So as far as she's concerned, this is here today, gone tomorrow for her. Also, she became a school teacher, some back history, because it was settling because she had to. She has a very rich family who pretty much wanted her to be what they wanted her to be, and she left that behind to live humbly. Yeah.
Do you find the character being a school teacher has a greater impact on the character than any other profession and things?
No. I think it really, any career can be fine. It could be that she decided to be a secretary, and that was the case. in her case, a school teacher is a great dramatic, shift. Although the reality is what she ends up doing with her career is art, and art is what she wanted to do. So she had a lot of the whole love for the arts, but she's not even teaching art. She's teaching English because why? Why is she teaching English and not art if she settled for teaching? Because it's too painful to be around art that she can't experience all the time fully. And that comes out in another scene. So see how even the career, the question's good, because see how even the career crafts who the human is? She settles for being a school teacher, and she can't even teach art. It's just too painful. Okay, some part of me realizes the window behind me is glass, and all things glass can break. On a side note, somebody sent me, after this scene, some people in Japan, I know it cannot be because they read my book, because my book's not out in Japan yet. It's not out until later in the year. But they actually had sex against the window and fell and crashed to their death. So do not do this at home. Yes, I was like, thank you for sending that to me. And then a few weeks later, my agent sent it to me. I'm like, thank you for sending that to me. Yes.
So now the books must come with a disclaimer.
No, so far not. I guess they assume most people would make sure they have hurricane-proof windows. I don't know. Hello. Okay, some part of me knows the window behind me is glass, and all things glass can break. Again, get the breaking glass, breaking emotions, heart, the play that I was trying to do there. He knows this too. It's in the dark glint of his eyes, and he wants me to worry about it. He's pushing me, testing me, trying to break me. And she thinks all the men in her life try and break her. Because I slid beneath his composure, because he really believes I'm out of my league. And maybe I am, but not tonight. Tonight, as the song has said, I am broken, and for the first time, perhaps ever, I am not denying the truth of all of those cracks. I am living them. I lift my chin and I let him see my answering rebellion. His fingers curl at the top of my silk blouse, and in a sharp pull, material rips in the buttons all the way down, pop and clamor in all directions. I gasp in unfamiliar territory, and burning alive with the ache I have for this man. He turns me to the window, and my hands flatten on the glass. Wasting no time, Chris unhooks my bra, and it and my blouse are off my shoulders in a moment. He is behind me again, his thick erection fitted snugly to my backside. Hands over your head, he orders, pressing my palms to the glass above me, his body shadowing mine. Stay like that. My pulse leaps wildly and adrenaline surges. Okay, now, what does this next part tell you about her? I've been ordered around during sex, but in a clinical, bend me over, give me what I want kind of way, I tried to convince myself was hot. What does that tell you about her? She got something bad back there, right? Something in that past that's not so good. But see how that one subtle line, I didn't do a bunch of narrative at some place to tell you. You know nothing about her past at this point. Hardly at all. Little pieces, I tell you, do not have to tell the whole backstory at once. So you got a little glimmer of something right there. Okay. This is different though. Erotic in a way I've never experienced. Enticingly full of promise. My body is sensitized. I can't speak what I write. Pulsing with arousal. I am hot where Chris is touching me and cold where he is not. When he seems satisfied, I'll comply with his orders. Chris slowly caresses a path down my arm and then up and down my sides, brushing the curves of my breast. He's in no hurry, but I am. I'm literally quivering by the time his hands cover my breast, welcoming the way he squeezes them roughly before tugging my nipples. Sorry, guys, but we're going there. I gasp with the pinching sensation he repeats over and over, creating waves of pleasure verging on pain. And the music is fading away, and so it is the past. There is pleasure and pain. The words come back to me, and this time they resonate. That's a journal entry. She followed the girl who read the journal. She read the journal. It ends ominously. She decides she's in the same life that she wanted art. She goes and seeks her out. and she's missing, but everybody says she just took off to run off with some guy, and it makes no sense to her. And she ends up getting offered a job at the gallery. And so she has, like right now, there's pleasure and pain. She's remembering one of the journal entries. This woman's words reach inside her and make her, this woman had the courage to chase her dreams. She had her courage even though she was alone to do things that she has not herself done. So that's part of what's happening to her. That, so how you can use the journal, or you could use anything. It could be a dog that comes into somebody's life. It could be anything that connects to them and makes them reach into their background, and that pulls them in. Some experience. They've watched a dog get killed, and that dog was like, it hurt them. They couldn't save him. They were the one who ran him to the vet. And I don't know why I said dog. Sorry, we have a dog in the house, a very adorable, sweet dog. Maybe that's why. But I was actually thinking of the movie, what's it called, Marley and Me, where the dog dies. You know how... there's things that emotionally affect you. It doesn't have, everything is not just what it seems. Sex is not sex. There's underneath it all. His hands are suddenly gone, and I pant in desperation, trying to pull them back. Chris captures my hands and forces them back to the glass above me, his breath warm by my ear, his hard body framing mine. Move them again, and I'll stop what I'm doing, no matter how good it might feel. And this is important because of the power play she's had in her past. Why is she okay with it with him? Becomes a question. I quiver inside at the erotic command, surprised by how enticed I am by this game we are playing. Just remember, I warn, still panting, still burning for his touch. Payback is hell. His teeth scrape my shoulder. Looking forward to it, baby, he rasped, more than you can possibly know. And there's a little hidden meaning to what you learn about him there, too. That's an end of a chapter, by the way. So if you're just kind of like, where would I end in a chapter? I'm really big on, in a chapter right where somebody absolutely can't stand to not turn the next page. She's hanging on the glass, naked. So in the first line of the next chapter, he unzips my skirt, sliding it down my hips. Step, he orders, my sex clenches with a command. Obediently, I step out of my clothes, and I am stretched across the window for him to do with me what he will, wearing only my panties, black thigh highs, and heels. The possibilities of exactly where this will lead are driving me wild. I have never been so turned on in my life, never so eager to be touched. It's illogical. I have a deep dislike for being ordered around. Got that? Mm-hmm. Deep dislike. Where does that come from? Little subtle things that you thread, despite a past some might say indicate otherwise. Right, because she'd been ordered around and she let men just totally run her life. So again, though you don't know that, little subtle threads, except it seems when I'm with Chris, or when it's by Chris. And I think I'm out of order. I think I'm going to stop there. I think we've had enough. As they go on in the scene, there's a part where she realizes, actually, I might just read that tiny little section. It's, hold on. If I can find it, at these pages that I have right here, so out of order. Sorry. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Now, over my fear of falling out of the window, I turn around and lean on the glass and watch him pull off the condom. Tossing it into the trash can by the couch, you do have to deal with things like that. And actually, there's one of the things that I use the condom for later is she later, when they go to have sex, she says she doesn't need him to use it because she's on the pill. And it becomes a whole ordeal about, he uses condoms. Why would she say that she didn't? Then she admits that she hasn't had sex in years. And it's like, oh, whoa, why haven't you had sex in years? And so how you turn the condom into a conversation that's deeper. It's not a condom. It's something deeper. And it becomes an issue because why did I admit that? But how do I not admit it? That kind of thing. Anyway, now I lost my place again. Okay, well, I can't find it. But bottom line is she realizes that he never got undressed. And she feels very awkward about that. And then he seems to suddenly realize it, and he takes his shirt off and puts it over her and says, now we're even. And she's like, whoa, all the controlling men in my life, and none of them have ever cared about making me feel like we're on even playing fields. So here's these ways that he starts showing that he's different, and maybe the ways that she's comfortable with that. And how something as simple as him handing the shirt to her is about something deeper. It's not about, he didn't just hand her his shirt. He did something to make her feel comfortable that the other men in her life would not do. So all those little subtle things, again, I go back to, so if you're going to write a sex scene that's just about sex, just to put a sex scene in, cut it. Because that's not what it's about. And that's pretty much where I am at. Questions, and and I'm